All right, ESPN's Tom Luginbill is with us now. He's going to give us some streaming and movie ideas as well. We are going to start with a little college football with him, though, on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. What's up, Lugs? How are you?
Hey, how we doing? Well, let's see. It's still morning your time. Different
Barely.
day, different time, same bat channel.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. How good is Jaden Rashada? I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in Florida, but is he worth it?
To be honest with you, I don't know if I would say if any player is worth that.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of it's speculation right now, and a lot of it's rumor and innuendo. And we're in this sloppy name, image, and likeness mess, and everybody wants to point towards that real easily. I did see a report today that his father has claimed that he has not requested a release from the University of Florida. So he's a good player. There's lots of good players, and I think that I don't know really how to comment on it without knowing all of the factors that are at play here. And I think probably safer not to. But this is the world we're living in now. This isn't going to be the last time we see something like this happen. It's going to get crazy.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Brown was asking specifically about the off-the-field the on the field. You saw him at the Under Armour All-Star game. He's that kind of talent. What is whoever ends up with Rashada? What are they getting in a quarterback?
He's very, very similar to Jaden Daniels at LSU. Very similar. Probably isn't as naturally gifted of a just take off and run type of guy. He's a good athlete. But very similar in size, stature, arm talent, all of those sorts of things. There's no question he's gifted. And I just got off a call for our final rankings for the 2023 class. And, each time we seem to get together and talk about it, we've never had 3-4 potential quarterbacks in the top 10 ever in 18 years. So it's a really, really good class. Now, he's not a top 10 overall player in our mind. But certainly a top 50 relative to the other competitors in his position.
Well, speaking of LSU and Jaden Daniels, one of the reasons Walker Howard is entering the portal is because of Jaden Daniels and Nussmeier, and he's quarterback 3. Yeah. How good is Walker Howard? And if he goes to TCU, is he a guy that can beat out Chandler Morris?
Yeah, he's really good. Had him a year ago as well. Just really, he got injured late in the season. Came down to the Under Armour game, couldn't play because of the injury. But we really, really liked him. We really liked him early on in the process, too. I thought, and I get it. Listen, Garrett Nussmeier's got a lot of time left on the clock. And he's obviously proven that he's going to be their next guy. He's played enough and has a good enough sample size. If that move were to happen to TCU, I think it would be a fantastic fit. I really, really believe that. He's a similar runner to Max Duggan, which I think is interesting, which makes him probably a little bit better than Chandler is. But let's not forget, Chandler Morris beat out Max Duggan. That's the guy that they were going to go with. And then all of a sudden he goes down. So certainly it would be competitive, but I think it would be a great landing spot for him.
ESPN's Tom Luginbill is with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. At Tom Luginbill on Twitter. You see him all over the place on ESPN. When you look at what Georgia has, and we got in the national championship game, remarkably, we got to see a lot of their second team. This does not look like a team that is going to fall off at. Now, look, we still got to see who's going away in the NFL, but they lost like 15 guys last year, Luke. This is not a team that is falling off at all, it doesn't appear.
No, they're not. Now, I think obviously there are going to be a lot of questions at the quarterback position in terms of what are they going to have there? Is it good enough? Will it be to the standard that they, became accustomed to with Stetson Bennett or even a Jake Fromm before that? He was highly successful there too. But listen, what we saw in the national championship game is reflective of what I feel like we, the four of us, talk about all the time on this show. And it's the depth and the caliber of player, not so much the age, not so much the inexperience. That stuff will come. It's when one guy goes off the field and the other guy comes on and you don't notice the other guy that went off the field. Like, there's not a glaring tell there. There's not a gaping hole that an opponent says, oh, we'll attack them right here. That's just their roster is so deep, top to bottom, and talented. And it's talented at all the right areas, right? Corner, defensive end, outside linebacker, edge guys, interior people. and then in the offensive line as well. So they're not going anywhere. But I would also make the argument that, you look at them, Alabama looks just like them. Ohio State, to some degree, looks like them at some spots. We've seen the best Clemson teams look exactly like Georgia and Alabama have looked, and this is really the difference between them and everybody else, and it's not changing.
NIL is always everyone's default answer now on when somebody leaves one school and goes to another. But you've covered recruiting a long time. When I see Jordan Burch leave South Carolina, and he was a contributor big time this year on the Gamecocks defense, and he's going to Oregon. But you do a little research, you see Dan Lanning was one of his top recruiters. He wanted to play for Lanning at Georgia. This seems like he's finally getting his wish. He did enough on the field to finally Lanning say, okay, I really could use him. That seems like a big playmaker that Oregon is getting to add that Duck defense next year.
It's absolutely huge because it's at a position that there is such a void of conference-wide in the Pac-12. For every Kayvon Thibodeau that was at Oregon, right? Well, heck, there's 5 or 6 of those guys in 3 different states in the southeast portion of this country. So you get a Jordan Burch, now all of a sudden he goes to a team like that, and they're not used to seeing that type of personnel up front. That's the type of guy, right? That's where Lincoln Riley and USC better start making up some ground, because for all of their transfer portal guys and the job that they did, they're not in the right positions. Dan Lanning just went out and got a potential difference maker at a key position that everybody in that conference is lacking. So good for Dan Lanning, good for that Oregon staff. That outside of Dason McCullough, who is the defensive end, outside linebacker guy that was at Indiana last year that Oklahoma signed out of the portal, that might be the best defensive pickup in the portal so far.
Wow.
Better chance of starting for Hugh Freeze next year, Robbie Ashford or a portal guy that we haven't seen yet?
Oh, I'd have to know who the portal guy is, because if it's an experienced one.
I mean, Spencer Sanders is still in the mix, right?
I know. I would hope so. I mean, the guy's thrown for almost 10,000 yards. He'd be an ideal fit for that offense. Everything we've seen Hugh Freeze do offensively, Spencer Sanders would fit right into that. I felt the same way about Grayson McCall. He decides to stay at Coastal Carolina. I did not feel that way about a Devin Leary type guy. I did not think that was going to be a great fit. But Robbie Ashford's got a chip on his shoulder, man. And I think he's just about sick and tired of everybody telling him how bad he is of a football player. But with that needs to come improvement in the passing game. You can be upset all you want at people dogging you, but you got to perform in the passing game. And if you can't, you're probably going to be standing next to Hugh Freeze instead of standing on the middle of the field.
Do you think Notre Dame is national championship good, just adding Sam Hartman, or did it need to be more than that?
No, they're not national championship good, just adding him. I think he's a fantastic addition. I really do. But I'm looking at the rest of their roster. They're not playing with the guys that we just discussed with Georgia. They're not playing with Alabama's guys. I do think they are on a really, really sound, solid path. I thought they made some inroads in recruiting that I hadn't seen them make before. A really, really good class. And Marcus Freeman deserves a lot of credit for that.
It's the first time we've had a chance to talk to you since the beatdown on Monday. It was
the scrimmage.
It was such a big deal that the Big 12 not only got in to the college football playoffs, but it wasn't Texas and Oklahoma who's going away. So there was a lot of chest puffing from the Big 12. They would get a win over Michigan, then they get to the championship game. Was more harm done to the conference by that beatdown, or did TCU make some inroads for the future of the Big 12? What's your big picture takeaway from that?
Well, I think the long-term outlook for TCU is really, really strong. Now, what type of impact does that have on the conference? I don't know, because I was standing on the sideline and witnessed the same beatdown, not to that extent, of the team that beat TCU in the Big 12 championship game by Alabama, who completely dismantled Kansas State. And so I think that all of the positives that were accumulated in favor of TCU are going to pay huge dividends going forward. Yes, they lost the national championship game. Nobody thought they'd be there in the first place. But as this was all unfolding, look at how their brand was expanded. Look at the exposure that they experienced in a way that it's never even come close to touching that program. In the midst of all of this, they announced a huge endowment and investment in their athletic facilities, a brand new football operations facility. Recruiting's going to obviously continue to grow and be outstanding. Private institution there. You're sitting there right in the smack dab of one of the most talent-rich states in the country. So I think Baylor and Texas Tech, Kansas State, and Oklahoma State still have to carry their weight, though. I mean, they've got you got to have multiple 10-win teams out of that conference, and they certainly haven't been Oklahoma and Texas in the last couple of years.
Luginbill, we did an exercise just a little bit ago. All three of us picked our TCU for next year. We did it on the fly, so let's make you do it on the fly.
Oh, a TCU.
And as you're thinking, we'll go around. Brown went BYU.
Yeah, I went BYU. Don't even know their schedule. They play at Arkansas at a conference, but they'll get a Big 12 schedule. But I don't know, I don't know who it is yet. So I went BYU.
I went Texas A&M because Jimbo has dumbed it down so much that the expectations are zero. And we had TCU in our preseason ranking at 57. That's about where Texas A&M will be this offseason. Yeah.
I went Texas Tech. I like what Joey McGuire's doing. You got 17 returning starters. Tyler Shuck's quality quarterback. They are using the portal right now to go to Group 5 schools and bring in big guys.
And it made us discover that week 2, Texas Tech plays host to Oregon. That's a heck of a week 2 game, yeah.
But the biggest
And
answer,
by the way,
the biggest answer from
Going
our
forward
viewers
with
was
Texas Tech?
Wisconsin. Go ahead.
Oh, interesting. I would probably say Utah. All right, because I feel like I'm still not so sure that top to bottom they weren't the best overall team in that league. Or Florida State. Florida State has. I think this is going to be the first offseason we've had where Clemson's not going to be picked to win the ACC. And I know that's not a TCU type team. Utah is a little bit more than that. I like your Texas Tech pick. And by the way, you talk about a program with some pretty deep coffers and a lot of backing and a lot of power brokers and a lot of facilities upgrades going on in Lubbock. That thing, if Joey McGuire does that thing right, and he can get kids on campus early on in the recruiting process, that thing could go to another level.
All right, ESPN's Tom Luginbill isn't just a football and recruiting expert. Luginbill also watches tons in the offseason of streaming and way too many things. So we want some great streaming recommendations or movie recommendations from Tom Luginbill now.
Well, I'm just starting to get back into it now because we're obviously coming off a bowl season, but I just kicked off this Kaleidoscope show on Netflix. You guys heard of this?
Yeah, what color did you go with first?
I didn't choose one. It just gave me one. It gave me green.
Okay.
So I'm just now getting into it. I'm liking it. I like the concept of it and going to be curious to see how the whole thing plays itself out. And aside from that, man, I got to look into a lot of things. I'm still just completely in love with Tulsa King, obviously.
It's
man.
It's my favorite on right now. And I don't know if it's only going to be 10 episodes because episode 9 was this past week. We might only have one more this season. But I can't, and you and I have talked about this. I mean, Stallone, this is probably his best work.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't think anybody thought it was going to be funny, and it's so freaking funny, man. That's what makes it so good. And then, oh no, it's going to slip my mind now.
Well, real quick, while you think of it, Jody, and I'm sorry, Jody says, tell Luginbill the last 2 episodes of Mayor of Kingstown are the best thing Taylor Sheridan has ever done. That's in the Vulcan Tire and Automotive chat room.
Oh, so is season 2 already out?
Yeah, season 2's out.
Mayor of Kingstown. It is? Okay, so I love that. I haven't started the second season. That's probably one I'm going to have to start here soon. But I thought that last episode of 1923 was really good. Not this last Sunday, but 2 Sundays ago.
Yeah, so I told you I gave up Yellowstone because of Beth Dutton, but I loved Rip. I thought Cole Hauser's character was great.
What do you mean? Wait, whoa, hold on a second. Because of Beth?
Yeah.
Why?
She's too much. If we were able to cut her tongue out, then we'd be okay.
Luginbill, you're going to love this. Look at Luginbill. She's the reason I didn't watch the show. Like, I watched the first episode, which is basically a feature-length film, And I came back in and asked these two, I was like, that Beth Dutton character, is she a major character? And they're like, oh, she only gets bigger. And I'm like, I am out. Can't watch it.
I'm a fan of strong women, so I eat
I was
Beth
gonna
Dutton
say,
up.
you two are delicate daffodils.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, it gets on my nerves.
No
man.
way Rip would put up with that. But what I was going to say, as good as the Rip character is in Yellowstone, this Spencer character in 1923 is a bad MFer.
I know, man. I love it. I mean, there's such good. So I'm glad you reminded me of Mayor of Kingstown because I gotta get back. I got to get back on that one. There's no question, and I got to catch up on some Tulsa Kings because I was traveling for so long. And the next thing you know, I'll be freaking doing the XFL. I'm not gonna have time to do anything.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that got announced yesterday. The XFL. Whose crew are you on? Who are you with?
I'm in the booth with John Schriffen and Stormy Buonantoni's on the sideline as a reporter, and Harry Douglas is on the other sideline as an analyst.
Yeah, and that starts in February, right after the Super Bowl, right?
February 18th. Yeah, I'm in DC on Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. It's ironic because that was the first game we had in 2022 was in DC. Great atmosphere, great environment. They'll be packed house.
Hey, one more for you, and I know you've seen the previews are on nonstop, but it's HBO's newest, The Last of Us. It's based on that video game.
Yeah, what is that?
I don't know, but I mean the critic reviews have been incredible. Pedro Pascal,
Rockstar?
who you know is in it.
Mandalorian.
It's kind of like a zombie thing. It's
zombies again.
Kind of like it's supposed to be authentic to the game.
It's
people are loving it.
apocalyptic. It's a fungal infection that has killed off mankind, and they go on some kind of cross country. There's one surviving girl that is immune, and he's got to get her across the country. Looks good.
Oh, I'm down with that. I love how crusty Ryan got real quick. Oh, zombies.
No, I don't want zombie crap. It's been done to death, man. Let's move on from the zombie stuff. Rhett says Lugs is his favorite guest. He says that in the Vulcan Tire and Automotive chat room. We love Lugs.
Oh, my goodness. There's one.
There's one. You finally got it. We had to do a whole season, but you finally got one.
A Twitter poll.
So honestly, Luginbill, you would sit on a cross-country flight next to Beth Dutton and talk to her the entire time.
Not only talk to her, stare at her.
That's creepy, Lugs. All right.
Sorry.
He is ESPN's Tom Luginbill. Always good with his time. You'll see him next on the XFL in February. Follow him on Twitter at Tom Luginbill. Thank you very much, Lugs. Have a great week. And
hey, guys, have a great one.
All right, buddy. Luginbill with us on the Johnston RVCenter.com hotline.